Good evening and welcome to the Standards of Geekness, episode 10. WWE did it.
Simpsons did it.
Simpsons did it.
Simpsons did it.
How are you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing okay. Still got the arm recovering, slowly but surely.
Yeah, I imagine that's quite the. I've never had a break like that, so.
It's more of a frustrating nagging kind of just little tiny fracture thing. It's nagging and it sucks.
That does sound awful. Well, I'm doing great. I honestly, this week in wrestling has been kind of weird. AEW was more entertaining than WWE at points for me, which is weird considering how badly we have been shitting on AEW lately.
You know, we're gonna get a lot more into the pay-per-view a little bit later, but I think I know that you will give her flowers, but Mariah May and Tony Storm need a trophy for what they did in that show. And it was really, when you really think about it, it was actually a really revolutionary match for mainstream Western wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching that and I can't think of another match in history that we've ever seen between two women that had the bloodshed like that, that the violence like that.
They were both
back up.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll get a little more into that, but they definitely deserve their flowers, and they absolutely deserve to be the main event over that atrocious piece of shit we saw. Anyways, so the hot trendy topic this week, last week was John Cena turning heel, which I've gone back and I've looked at a lot of the biggest heel turns this last week in all of wrestling history. I think it passes Hogan. I think it passes Hogan turning. And the reason I say that, Hogan turning got covered on a couple mainstream shows. Cena turning heel trended worldwide on a lot of news channels, like mainstream media, like The Daily Show, CNN, and Fox News, MSNBC. Like they were all like Cena turning heel was a bigger moment in terms of viewing audience and in terms of impact. And it's wild to see.
I think part of that has to do with the fact that, he holds, it's a Guinness record now, the longest face run before a heel turn. The dude just, what is it, like 30 years as a baby face, and then he finally turned heel?
Damn near 22. Because he was heel at the October of 2002, turned face in October of 2003, and then has been a face since then. Until 2 weeks ago.
So 22.
So there's been a lot of back and forth on whether that was the actual plan or not, and we try not to super speculate, but I guess we kind of have to. So
that's our job, Evan.
It's kind of our job. In Force 2, they do pay the bills.
It's a hard job, but somebody's got to do it.
So hard. So apparently, The Rock, is being rumored, wanted Cody to be the one to turn heel instead of John Cena. I don't know if I was never a big Phineas and Ferb cartoon watcher. I was a teenager when that came on, but I always found Dr. Doofenshmirtz, the Two Nickels meme, to be very funny. It is weird that 2 years in a row, supposedly, Dwayne's had a really terrible idea, only to be thwarted by Cody saying no.
Thwarted by Cody saying no, and then somehow it being turned into something that's much better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't believe that was actually the case. I don't think Cody ever turning heel was on the table. Just to preface that.
No, I can believe it. I can believe it was part of a conversation that happened. Like, you've been a part of wrestling roundtable discussions when it comes to,
like, 6 is an option.
Yeah, that option I'm sure was pitched at some point, but I think it was quickly decided like, no, that's not the way to go. I think Cena being the heel in this is, you know, a lot more forward thinking.
Mm-hmm. It's a bigger deal. Cody turning heel. Cody's been heel before, and the thing is Cody's the biggest babyface in the company. You know, Roman, he still hasn't had his comeuppance moment, other than getting his face planted into a steel steps at the Rumble. Um, he hasn't had that come back down to earth and then build yourself back up babyface type moment. Um, Cody's the biggest babyface. He moves the most merch. Him and Jey Uso are like, 1A, 1B. Why would you turn your biggest babyface heel with no other babyface to really like run them against? Like, unless you're setting up some type of super NWO style faction, which is kind of passe at this point. It's been done.
I mean, it has been done, but I don't think of it. I understand where you're coming from with the NWO analogy, but I think a lot of more of that has to do with the the heel turn by Cena and how similar that feels in a lot of way to Hogan's heel turn.
Yeah,
But like the way that this looks being set up, it almost looks more main event mafia style.
that's
WWE just main event mafia.
and that's kind of how it feels to me. Um, and I'm completely fine with Cena turning heel. I thought he should have turned heel years ago, but this obviously it means more now. Um, I mean, we're clearly on a collision course. We're getting one or two options. Either Cody's going to be the one to put Cena down, Cena sacrificing his soul to win the championship. He either completes it, which I think he should, and I think he needs to take the title to Hollywood and not show up for unless it's a pay per view. Like just be a satellite the whole thing. Just go full on Dwayne. The whole build for their Mania season where Rock would cut promos on location in like Philadelphia or Boston and like fly be a satellite. I think that'd be hilarious. Um, the money with Cody's always been in the chase. His title reign's gotten stagnant. The feud with Kevin Owens kind of like warmed it back up again, but I'm kind of excited to see what they do with Cena and what they do with Cody.
I'm convinced Kevin Owens can rewarm anything. Kevin Owens is like the microwave of the WWE. He can he can pick any feud back up. He can pick any superstar back up and turn them back into something that's watchable and exciting. And
You heard it here first. Kevin Owens is a microwave.
Kevin Owens isn't just a microwave. Kevin Owens is my microwave.
The interesting thing, so we don't put a lot of stock in what Dave Meltzer says here. We report on it when it's necessary or when we think it's
It was a
valid.
12-star match.
12 stars. It was the hugest match.
37 stars because the Young Bucks were in it.
The golden showers of stars. But yeah, so Dave and Brian Gerwitz are going back and forth. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Brian Gerwitz, he's good friends with The Rock. He was a head writer during the Attitude Era. He's working at the production company $7.
He's the Rock's personal writer.
Yeah. He confirmed that basically more or less confirmed that the plan for the return that Dave basically was saying the turn was meant for WrestleMania. Gerwitz was saying no, that's not true. You're 0 for 2. Basically, I kind of think with wrestling journalism, I think wrestlers and writers and people just need to call them out when they're just lying, and it's like very easy to prove they're lying.
It's kind of funny. On this show, we both said that, speculation. Yeah, it was possible for him to, speculatory. Possible for a storyline for him to turn at Mania. It was possible storyline for him to turn at Elimination Chamber. We both said we didn't know, like, 2 months ago when it was happening. We just knew that it was gonna happen.
It's the only thing he hasn't done at this point, outside of win the Grand Slam.
But the difference between the speculation and the certainty that is just wrong it's crazy to me. Like, this dude's sources are worse than ours.
That's saying something. I trust Daniel Roberts more to give me more reliable news. Yeah. I guess let's just do you want to dive right into AEW Revolution?
Yeah, man. As weird as it sounds, I'm kind of optimistic about talking about Revolution.
Yeah, it's weird considering we've spent the better part of 2 months literally shitting all over that product.
Well, don't worry, we'll get there.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There were bad things on this show, really bad things. But overall, I think it was a good show. I think there were matches that were, I mean, by my count, at least 4 or 5 matches that were like great quality or better.
Now I will say going in that one thing that I did feel the show as an overall suffered from was, like, I'm not going to say a lack of selling, because
that's just
Kenny Omega sold enough in that show for everybody. Every match doesn't need to have a false finish. Every match doesn't need to have, multiple finisher kick out spots. And I felt like there was a bit too much of that in the booking of the matches, but that's AEW.
Yeah, you kind of have to take the good with the bad there. I wish they would sell a little more. I understand some talents are better at it than others. You spoke about Kenny Omega, Tony Storm and Mariah May. They sold like champs. Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher. Jesus fucking Christ.
Kyle Fletcher, man, underrated star of 2025, right there.
He's really.
He's not going to get nearly the love that he deserves for that match. Like, when you're the guy who goes down to a bigger named, wrestler, Ospreay's the one who's going to get remembered. But Fletcher was fucking fabulous in that match. The way they started that off up on the top of the cage was so cool.
Yeah, it was a really interesting way to do it. Hangman and MJF, they did a really great job. Swerve and Ricochet both did an amazing job.
How did you feel about Hangman and MJF opening the show? Because on the one hand, I was like, well, you want to start the show off hot, but I almost felt like it felt like the beginning and the end were misbeats to me. Like, I felt like if we could have just done this with the card, it would have been a lot better.
What I would have done is I would have put Mariah and Tony on last. I would have moved that world title match to the very beginning. And then I would have put MJF and Hangman probably 2 matches before Tony and Mariah.
I was thinking, what if you opened the show with Swerve Ricochet?
I mean, it's a hot way to do it with the #1 contendership on the line. It's the first time 2 black wrestlers have ever faced for the #1 contendership in AEW, so it's a history-making moment. I'm fine with it. You can tinker with that a little bit, but there were a lot of matches. Honestly, I think my major issue with this show, beyond the lack of selling, was there were a lot of matches, honestly, that shouldn't have been on the card. Like Jericho versus Bandito's brother, not even happening. Orange Cassidy and the Costco guys and Mark Briscoe versus MXM Collection and Johnny TV. That match was horrible.
No. Realistically, the whole show should have been 5 to 6 matches.
I think they're just trying to get everybody in. And maybe that's your problem, Tony. Maybe you're doing too much. Maybe you need to send a little bit more of that talent over to ROH and actually build that brand up.
Well, there are storylines that they're working with, and the one thing, what I will give them is some of the payoffs to these storylines are really fulfilling. You know what I mean? As a fan to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing the end of that match between Swerve and Ricochet.
That was great.
Yeah, it felt cathartic.
Yeah. Well, and
And
Ricochet really came into his own as a heel in the build to this, and like I've been genuinely surprised with how good he has been as a heel. I still don't like his promo. I still think he needs a manager. I don't think him and Swerve are done.
we talked a few weeks ago, and I said how Jey Uso, my issue with Jey Uso is like I don't feel like he's been put into a position where now I believe that he can win the world championship. And um, a month ago, I would have said the same thing about Swerve Strickland. Okay,
Swerve's already
I
won the world title.
I'm sorry.
Swerve's already won the world title.
That doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me if you've already been champion. Okay, whether I believe in you as a champion is what I'm talking about.
He had a pretty good reign.
That's an opinion that I don't happen to share. I found his run to be rather forgettable.
I mean, I think he suffered from some of Tony Khan's action figure booking.
I'm trying to give the man some credit here if you'd let me continue. Jesus fucking Christ. What I'm saying here is before I didn't feel like he was a credible champion. I didn't feel like he was a credible challenger. I didn't feel like he was a credible challenger a month ago. After that match with Ricochet, now I'm ready. Now I believe in Swerve Strickland. And I think that's a thing that a lot of guys that are going into the main event and looking for those world titles, they have to overcome. It's kind of a glass ceiling that you have to get through with the fans to make them believe in you to that next level. Because we're not just talking about a world champion, we're talking about a world champion. We're not just talking about a guy who's going to win the title for a month and then drop it. You're talking about a guy who you're hoping is going to carry the company for 6, 8 months, a year.
Okay, I can see your point. Yeah, we definitely have two very different opinions on that. I enjoyed his feud with Mojo. I enjoyed how he won the title. How his matches with Moxley, which at this we'll get to that in a minute. I I enjoyed his match with Bryan Danielson. Uh, his feuds with Hangman have been pretty fucking epic. I just think that he got cooled off because of the bad booking.
There was definitely some bad booking. I think part of the issue too for me has been there is so much backstage drama that was surrounding Hangman Adam Page, CM Punk, the Young Bucks. I mean, I could literally just keep going on with this and keep naming people.
Yeah, I mean, that honestly that overshadowed pretty much all of 2023 and a good chunk of 2024 with AEW. I think that really set them back. Having everything happen the way it did.
And especially for guys like Hangman, who is supposed to be at the forefront of everything. Like he's a guy who you're building out to be that, like, yeah, exactly. Again, Hangman, I know he's been champion, but
his reign
when Hangman was champion, the company was so young that the title didn't mean as much yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like he had great matches, and I mean that was AEW year 3. It just, I mean, the story, the build into leading up to getting to him becoming champ was done very well, but like everything since then has been kind of a shit show in the world title scene for the
Yeah.
men. Um, Kenny Omega winning the international championship, that was we saw that coming. I think it's the right person to have the belt, can take it over to New Japan, have great matches, can go to NWA, and go all over with it.
There's a lot of rumors going around at this point that this is all going to lead up to all out
Mm-hmm.
and a unification match with Okada. Well, and you know how much I've been saying I never want to see Omega wrestle Okada ever again. Wait, that's not what I've been saying.
I definitely think a lot of the fans would agree with you that we want to see it happen. I'm a little concerned that that Okada is the shit. I'm blank. It's been a long day for me from work and whatnot.
I think
the title he's got has kind of cooled off as well.
The real thing that I think you gotta ask is what we all need to be like asking ourselves as fans, right? Is what exactly are we expecting out of Okada and Omega? See, Okada and Omega had these classics in New Japan, but that was like 2017.
Like 2014 through 2017, yeah.
Like I want to say that their bit like the big 1 hour one that went over an hour, wasn't that in 2017?
When 2016 or 2017, because I think it was at the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah, you know the one I'm talking about. They had like 3 in that series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like I'm excited for it. I am a little concerned that they will somehow goof this up.
You're still 17, or sorry, not 17. You're still 7 years removed, and for Omega, you're 2 major surgeries removed from those matches. That's I don't know if we can expect the same magic that we got out of those matches in New Japan.
I think it's going to be 2 very different styles they wrestle from what they wrestled previously. I personally am excited to see it. I just don't let me down.
I will say that I think it would be absolutely amazing to see Okada go for the Rainmaker and then drop to one knee so he nails Omega in the stomach. I think that would be just an interesting way to like spice up that feud. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because in most of their matches previously, Kenny was the heel.
Yeah.
Hit him in the. I don't know if it's in the match. Like do it in the build up and then have him just lean over him and go, bitch. So I guess let's get into the worst match of the night.
Simpsons did it. Simpsons did it.
Simpsons did it. That's the whole point of that. And the name. See, when we name our episodes, there's always a meaning behind them. 9 times out of 10. Occasionally we're just lazy, but
Evan and I were joking about this first thing this morning, like 8 a.m. We're messaging each other. Simpsons did it. So during the main event, it was Mox and Adam Copeland, Mr. Edge.
Just call him Edge.
Okay, just call him Edge.
I'm not gonna get sued for it.
And honestly, the match, the one-on-one match they were having, it It wasn't bad. It was definitely a serviceable match. Had some good stuff, had some kind of stuff. It definitely wasn't up to that like Tony Storm, Mariah May level. Definitely wasn't, but it was getting the job done. Ultimately, Edge starts spearing the hell out of Mox. It looks like Edge is going over. When out through the crowd comes a man in a hoodie with the hood up. And then Solo Sikoa jumped up on the ring apron and he jammed his thumb into Edge's. No, wait. We're saving that one for next week. This time, it was a different WrestleMania we were ripping off this time. Instead, the hood comes down. It is Christian Cage. He signs the contract, his money in the bank, or whatever they call it. Jumps on in. He's a part of the match now. And what really pissed me off here is just how weak it made Christian Cage look. I probably could have forgiven all of this if it didn't make Christian look so goddamn weak. Edge and Mox have now gone through a good 12 minutes of brutality against each other. When Christian gets in the ring and gets locked in the Bulldog and taps.
Yeah, I did not understand that for a multitude of reasons. You've been teasing him cashing this in for a really long time, and he cashes in and fails. He's the first one ever to have this thing. Cashes in and fails. You've already ruined the credibility of that thing for me at this point.
Yep.
Why would he not wait until the match was over as an opportunist, attack Edge, win the title, and then it gets us away from the Death Rider shit?
Well, that would have been nice, but clearly so after the match, we go off the air with the sight of Swerve Strickland staring down John Mox, and like I get what they're trying to do. Like I see the vision you're trying to have. It's just failing and falling short.
Well, it's not even. I wouldn't even say it's a lack of execution on the talent, because I feel like the talent are going out there and doing what they're told. My issue here is it's a lack of like consideration for presentation. Like you're not taking into the account you're ruining the gimmick of your contract, the guaranteed world title contract. You're ruining the presentation of the match and that contract. You're ruining Christian Cage's character by making him get in there and tap almost immediately, and he's the freshest one.
Not just the fact that he tapped out immediately. He tapped out immediately. You know, how long was he the TNT champion for? Seriously. Like, he had a long freaking reign. Mm-hmm. You expect this guy to be able to go. He's a former world champion in multiple companies. You expect this. And not only that, but like Christian Cage and the patriarchy, he came out there alone?
Yeah, made zero sense. Why would you not have the patriarchy come out and like have the Death Riders come out and like try to get involved, and have the patriarchy come out and even the odds, and then go over them?
Yeah.
It would have made way more sense to put the belt on Christian Cage, move away from the Death Riders and Edge, have Swerve, who has previous history with Christian, have them feud for it.
It would have been more interesting to lead into a Death Riders versus Patriarchy feud with Swerve Strickland looming as the ominous threat that has to be taken care of immediately because he's the number one contender. And he could take the title off of, like, if you want to have Mox go over, then fine. But you could have built it into something that was more palatable for the future.
Yeah. And I do not know what Tony Khan's obsession is with Jon Moxley at this point. He has been damn near involved in the world title scene since he came into AEW 4 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it was at this point. Yeah, they came 2019. It's almost 6 years ago. 6 years in May. He's been in the world title scene almost the entire time. The only other time he hasn't is when he was involved in the Inner Circle. Fuck, I forgot what they were called. That's how long when we went to Blood and Guts.
The Blackpool Combat Club.
Yes, Blackpool Combat Club.
I loved. Okay, hold on. I gotta say, I loved the Blackpool Combat Club.
I did too, and I didn't mind them being presented as heels. I didn't.
No, but I really do think William Regal, and I think it shows like how influential a manager can be, because Regal was nothing but a glorified manager for that group.
Yep.
And it really goes to show just how important the right mouthpiece for a group can be. You know, it just like Bobby Heenan was for the Heenan family. You know, William Regal was for the Blackpool Combat Club. That's where the Blackpool comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And like I really hate the way that Regal left AEW.
Well, he never intended to leave WWE. The only reason he ended up in AEW is because
No, and that's fine. That's fine. And I don't mind him leaving to go back to WWE. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is he did have the stint in AEW. I think that it was a complete waste to have him turn heel, you know, and like help MJF just so MJF can punch him in the head. Like, fuck all. Like, you could have got some real long, like, no, William Regal was taken out like hardcore permanent. He's gonna be out for months. We don't know if we'll ever see William Regal again. Everything we do from this day forward is for William Regal.
Yeah, and honestly, that whole era is just lost in the fucking shuffle. Like, if you think about it, it's just lost in the fucking shuffle. And like, I know Moxley's had stints in the tag division with Claudio, and they've been involved in the trios thing. Like, it's not that. I don't care if he's a champion or at least in contention, but like I am literally tired of seeing him vie for the world title or be the world champ.
I think part of the issue with Mox is and I think this is the case in WWE when he was there. He's never had a true rival, a true like arch rival. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like he had goofy shit with Chris Jericho and Seth Rollins and like whatnot. But in WWE, he never had like at best AJ Styles or John Cena. But even then, they were short feuds.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that speaks to Vince's lack of trust in him more than his ability. But in AEW, I mean, his first feud was with Kenny Omega. Then he got forgotten. Then Kenny Omega beat him for the world title in the weird fucking carnival death match.
The thing is all of Mox's feuds and shit are at the end of the day about the title, and for any and you know, I remember I'm gonna talk a little HKW. Talk a little HKW.
Sure.
So when we were booking HKW, I had spent the better part of the first year as the world champion. The second year, you and I we tagged up for a lot of it. And going into our third Digital Revolution, our WrestleMania, I really wanted to have a singles match with somebody that was going to be like high emotion, high drama, good story. Everyone got invested in it, and I wanted no titles involved because if the title's involved, that cheapens it. You know what I mean? I wanted this to be about the blood feud between me and it ended up being with Aaron Bronson, and we tore the house down. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, it didn't help that the world title scene was kind of similar to how AEW. Not for a lack of our booking. I can objectively say we're not perfect, but no offense to Cam or Ricky or Eric, but that was none of their best work.
the world title scene at that point was a little rocky. I will definitely agree with you. But ultimately, it put me and Aaron into this position after that match where we were able to come back to that. You know what I mean? We were able to come back to that over and over and over, and like, maybe we're gonna team now, but there's still, I don't know if I can trust you anymore. And you could always feed back to that. And Mox just doesn't have that. He doesn't have that kind of that story history with anybody.
Maybe that's what they're building to. To tell you the truth, I want Jon Moxley to be solo for a while. I'm tired of him being in a group at this point. I'm tired of him fighting for the title. Let him go have a blood feud with Samoa Joe or Swerve or something.
I would love. I think the one that would be really fun to watch is I would love to see Jon Moxley get turned on by the rest of the group. Let Claudio take over. And then when Mox comes back, you can go into Claudio versus Mox.
Mm-hmm.
I think those two could have banger after banger after banger.
Yeah, I mean, definitely agree with you. I think that has a lot of potential. I don't know. I don't know what the hell they're doing with Wheeler Yuta. 1 minute he's hardcore, like, oh, I'm an angry fighter guy, and then the next minute he's like shaking hands with Edge, and then like back to being like it really does come across as like he's booking them like action figures.
I think he's like a mix.
You turn heel. Ooh. You didn't say please.
He's like a bad version of Crash Holly.
There's a booger sugar joke in there.
He's a mix of Crash Holly and Tozawa. It's horrible booking. That's how he's booked. Hey, it's not. Don't blame me. It's how he's booked.
I know. Just oh my god. At least you didn't do the one I see on Reddit where people just. I'm not gonna. I'll tell you off air.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Overall, I still think the show was pretty good. I definitely think AEW could use someone to kind of rein some of the vision stuff in a little bit and bring it to cohesion. Be a good sounding board for Tony and like. You have the talent. The talent is never in question here. The issue is the execution and the planning. It's always been the execution and planning issue in AEW. If I was to give a grade on this show, I would probably say probably an 8 out of 10. Like, I think that's reasonable.
I had said a solid 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
When I said it, which translates out to 8 or 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
Either way, it was a very good show. It's definitely worth the watch. If you just want to go and watch some good pro wrestling, there's a couple hours of good pro wrestling there, and when you get to Edge versus Mox, you can just turn it off.
Just treat it like Game of Thrones season 8. Stop at episode 3.
There you go.
Yeah.
You would still let the last season of Game of Thrones go through the first 3 episodes before you turned it off?
Yeah, because it stopped being good after that.
I think it stopped being good before that. By that point we had already had Starbucks had already shown up in Westeros by that point.
Episode 4, just there was a jumping the shark moment after that. It's like when Fonzie jumped the shark.
I definitely know what you mean. Oh God, that show, it broke my heart.
Yeah, so much potential and just like And I'm worried about House of Dragon with the same thing.
So that's why I'm not even getting into that.
It's really good though. Matt Smith is a Targaryen. But yeah, honestly, my favorite moment of the whole show though, outside of Tony and Mariah just killing it, when MJF runs into the ropes and like hip thrusts Hangman Adam Page right in the face. I, I just keep thinking in my mind. I see it in my mind. I'm like, no Diddy, no Diddy.
You heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. Evan can't stop thinking about MJF's pelvic thrusts.
Walked right into that one, didn't I, folks?
Oh, don't worry. Hangman did too.
There was some force behind that one. Hashtag Mike James.
You want to talk? You want to talk WWE?
Yeah, let's talk WWE. Yeah. So last week's shows were solid. For me, Cody's response to Cena was typical babyface, response. That shiner he got, holy shit, that looked ugly.
And someone needs to tell Travis Scott this is all a work.
Yeah, like that. I don't know what happened there. From my perspective,
real talk. If you are an entertainer that's not used to the professional wrestling industry and you're coming out into the professional wrestling, you need to if you're gonna throw a punch, you need to know how to throw a working punch. Mm-hmm. I personally, and this is a personal opinion of mine, if you are gonna be a celebrity and you're gonna get in that ring for anything outside of like waving, glad handing, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Then before the show, you need to take a bump.
Yep, absolutely.
You need to take a bump. You need to know what those men and women are going to be going through. Just one. And I think that would do a lot of good for some of these people who get in the ring and think, oh well, I know what I'm doing. Well, clearly you fucking don't. Because now Cody Rhodes has a perforated eardrum. And he's got a big old black eye. It wasn't Cena that did that.
No. I guess we should talk about Io Sky winning the World Championship. We touched briefly on it last week. She beat Rhea Ripley. I don't think anybody would have seen that coming.
Daniel broke the news on the podcast to us, and went back and watched that. And I gotta say, even when I watched it, I was surprised.
Mm-hmm. I actually wasn't aware that Rhea has never beaten Io Sky.
I wasn't aware of that either, but then I don't know how many matches they've actually had against each other, because for a long time now, Io's been over on SmackDown, and Rhea was on Raw, so they were separated for a long time. And they really hadn't been together since NXT.
Yeah. No, they had quite a few in NXT, and I think they've had one main roster match, one-on-one. But yeah, I was just genuinely surprised they pulled the trigger. I'm a little confused as to what this means for the match with Bianca, because right now, as it stands, it's Bianca challenging Io. And you're not going to tell me you're going to cut your biggest women's star out of the match. Like, this has to be a triple threat, right?
It feels like it should be a triple threat. That's what kind of like feels like it makes sense and is leading towards. At the same time, I still feel like there's more to this Jade Cargill, Naomi, Bianca Belair situation. That definitely, Bianca's part in that didn't feel concluded when she left the ring.
Yes. So I've always been under the impression that Bianca was the one who pulled the strings and was manipulating Naomi to do it. Especially last week when the attack happened, when Bianca came out in all white, and both Naomi and Jay and Bianca were in all black. Subtle little things like that WWE doesn't miss on.
WWE is getting really good at their Easter eggs, man. They're on point. There's somebody. I don't think it's Triple H. Stephanie. I think it's Stephanie. Stephanie's sitting at home masterminding the Easter eggs. The hunter comes home. She's like, "Baby, I got one for you."
You know who it is? It's the guy down in the special props department for the editing. His name is Vincente de McMahon. Huge grapefruits.
Don't give me that. I wouldn't buy that for a second. There's no way Vincenzo would be able to come up with this much continuity over a long period of time. Don't give me that bullshit.
Well, especially that golden egg episode of Raw that happened like a few years ago. Like,
oh my god, the Netflix golden egg episode.
Yeah,
that was the worst.
That might have been the worst Raw of all time.
And they took that into it wasn't just Raw. Wasn't that like taken into like a Saudi Arabia show or something?
Yep. It was taken in. Sorry guys. It was for a Raw, but I believe it stretched for either another week or two into a Saudi Arabia pay-per-view, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I was there has to be something that they're doing with that. And CM Punk, holy shit, that promo. Oh my god. My only caveat to that with that promo is I'm not super stoked on. So I've never been big on body shaming or like shaming people for like genetic defects or like, pointing out imperfections in them. John Cena, we all know he's going bald. He's got a bald spot back here. It's obvious when you look at the photos and people make the NWO memes. I'm not super stoked on that. Calling him a bald fraud was a little bit of a miss, but The Rock's been bald for so long and he shaves his head bald. I'm okay with that. I think that it took me out of it for a second. Maybe that's just me being nitpicky, but holy shit, he went scorched earth.
I definitely think you're nitpicking a little bit on this one. It was an opening segue. It was his opening salvo.
Yes, that's fair. But then the brawl with Rollins afterward, that was one of the best brawls we've seen in years. That reminded me of the Attitude Era brawls.
Rollins, excuse me. That's contagious, you bastard.
Okay.
Rollins and Punk definitely have that like
blood feud
Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels energy to them. Like maybe they're friends backstage, maybe they're not. Maybe these guys legit don't like each other as much as they're saying they don't like each other. It's a little hard to tell, to be honest. And maybe that's great acting, and if so, awesome, great job, guys.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they do. I'm curious how Roman's going to play into this. I'm not watching Raw tonight. If I was a betting person, I would imagine Roman's going to show up and cost Seth the match, or cost them both the match.
Is Roman scheduled to be on Raw tonight?
I believe so. They haven't mentioned anything about it. Maybe it's like a surprise return, but if I remember correctly, I saw something about it earlier today. So I want to give Gunther and Otis some props from last week. That was pretty entertaining. Minimum expectations. Gunther is, a believable world champ. They, of course, corrected a lot of the presentation issues that I had earlier this summer, or earlier this last fall and after he won the title. the whole quivering, lip shaking bullshit he had with Damian Priest made him look weak. There's a course corrector there, and I think they're doing that to set Jay up to win. I'm still convinced that Punk is going to cash in that favor on Jay and and challenge, either join the match, a la Seth Rollins, or he's going to cash in that favor, turn heel, and then win the title off of Jey Uso. I think the second one's far more intriguing.
The albatross of the WWE.
Yeah, well, it's like the fucking bracelets months ago with him and Drew. Like, honestly, that's the calling card of a CM Punk feud. Is there's an albatross always hanging around the neck of it, whether it's a bracelet, fucking, Ace Steel biting someone,
a championship belt you're going to run away with.
Yeah, like there's always that albatross around there. And it does make for compelling storytelling. My issue is the fact that it's at this point they need to do something with it, and I'm pretty convinced it's going to happen at Mania as a big shock factor thing. Maybe we get a triple threat where it's Rollins, Romans, Punk. Punk puts them over earlier on the night and then cashes in the favor on Jay later that night.
I mean,
gets him his main event finally.
Okay, and I just keep going back to Paul Heyman owes CM Punk a favor.
What is it?
Paul Heyman does not have the authority to make world title matches.
But he is connected to the tribal chief who's connected to The Rock.
Yeah. But it's Punk.
Your guess is as good as mine on that one, honestly. But yeah, Gunther and Otis did a really good job last week. So I guess let's lean right into our topic that we wanted to talk about. How we would fix the WWE Mid-card, and 2 matches from each of us, or 1 or 2 matches, whichever you want to do, that we believe should happen at WrestleMania.
And keep in mind, we actually started doing. We planned out to do this. We were going to do this last week.
Either last week or the week before.
And then Cena turned heel, threw our whole plan into disarray.
I'll take it.
But whether we're talking about the United States title or the Intercontinental title, the men's or women's, all 4 titles are feeling a little bit lackluster right now.
I guess let's preface it. There's 4 champions here. Okay, we have Braun Breaker, LA Knight, who's the new U.S. champion, which I saw something right before we hit on the pod. Apparently, part of the reason that LA Knight won the title last week, Shinsuke Nakamura's contract is ending with WWE this month, and it's being reported that there's no interest in re-signing him. At least they're giving him advance notice. I just think that they did Shinsuke incredibly dirty in his time in WWE, given how loyal he is. Ben?
Shinsuke did a lot of really great things in NXT, and we talked a little bit before we went on the air tonight. Shinsuke was he was done dirty. His feud with AJ Styles should have been like a launching point into the main event for the rest of his career, and instead he was done so dirty he lost 4 straight world title matches to AJ Styles.
Well, then,
even after turning heel, he lost.
Yeah, every babyface champ that they've had, world title level wise, he's lost it. Like, he feuded with Cody after Cody won the belt at Mania while Roman was off for a month or 2?
About a month and a half.
Yeah. So it
was like that initial feud.
He's a former Royal Rumble winner too. That's the fucked up thing. Is it just proves just how bad Vince was at booking, in his senile days, and how just out of fucking touch. If I'm any New Japan talent, I'd kind of second guess coming to WWE at this point, because the only one that they've done well by, at least last couple of years, that isn't in NXT right now, is Asuka. And even then, they've kind of fucked her up too.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I was gonna say I don't know if we can say they haven't fucked Asuka. I mean, I still think the way that they did her first loss to Charlotte Flair was
bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we've got we've got the women's champs, which Chelsea Green, actually of the 4 champions, Chelsea Green's actually doing the best right now, in my opinion. She's over with the crowd. She's getting the reactions. Hell, her back and forth with Tiffy on SmackDown was great. I could believe Chelsea Green could be the women's world champ at some point. She's one of the most over female stars they have. The problem is booking. It was really intriguing that they added another person to her faction this last week. Alba Fry now joining the Secret Service, as they're calling it. They're calling them slagents instead of agents. I'll give them props for creativity. It is a very Divas era gimmick, but as we all know, Chelsea Green's a huge fan of the Divas era and takes inspiration from a lot of that. For me, though, I think that she needs a good babyface to work off of. And finally, the most forgettable of these mid-card titles, in my opinion, the women's IC title. From launch, since Lyra Valkyrie won that, it has been laughably forgettable. They cut her off of the initial Netflix debut, and then she came back like the next week, had a match with Dakota Kai. She's really only feuded with Dakota Kai up until last week, which she had a match with Ivy Nile, which that match was mid as fuck. Like, they're both talented. I know they're talented, and I know what they're capable of. That wasn't it, my dogs. That was not it, to quote Sami Zayn. That's not it, my dogs. So we have some ideas. I don't know if you want to go first or if you want me to go first.
Let's do a little bit of back and forth on this one.
Okay, I'll kick things off. The men's IC title. So Braun Breaker is our current champion. He's actually done a pretty good job. They haven't really given him a whole lot of work. They're presenting him well, but they haven't given him a whole lot of to work off of. He's feuded with Kaiser Ludwig. He's feuded with Sheamus. Looks like he might be feuding with Penta now. This to me screams, let's get to Mania, to build the Mania. Braun needs to hunt these guys down one by one, kind of like a big dog type hunt game. Take out his competitors, AJ Styles, all these guys. And Finn Balor. There needs to be a multi-man TLC ladder match at WrestleMania featuring all of these gentlemen. When I'm talking Braun Breaker, AJ Styles, Finn Balor, Logan Paul, Penta, Ludwig Kaiser, and Sheamus. You could go 2 ways here. I don't think Braun Breaker needs to continue to be the champ. I think, honestly, the title needs a fresh restart. My 2 choices originally were going to be Logan Paul and Penta. I think it's a now or never situation with Sheamus. So my idea here is to have Logan Paul or Sheamus win the title in the TLC match. Sheamus, you get the good feel-good story. You could go with that option. Logan Paul, you finally get an actual heel who would bring relevance to the title. Because, I mean, I don't like the guy. He's a jackass, and he's banned from, half the world. But, I think they're setting us up for that match already. It screams to me obvious. I think going with Logan Paul or Penta would be a better swerve. I am concerned that Sheamus is on that hunt for that magical, elusive Grand Slam championship. I don't think it's necessarily the right time.
What if Sheamus and Logan Paul both pulled the belt down at the same time?
Well, then you have to have a match the following week.
The fuck we do. Co-Intercontinental Champions. Chyna and Jericho did it. Bring it back, baby. Bring it back.
I mean, they did mention it with Michelle McCool and Layla on one of the broadcasts recently with her Hall of Fame induction. That would be interesting. You could build a lot of right there. I almost went with LA Knight, but I thought this one was a little more intriguing to me.
Quick pause, just because you said something that made me think of it. We didn't touch on it in the news, but we should have. We fucked up, Evan. Massive props. I want to say how great it felt. It was. I'm so glad that Lex Luger is going into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, this one's a bittersweet one for a lot of people, myself included, because Lex Luger growing up, he watching Monday Night Nitro, he was champ. He was most of the time, mostly in that era, a good guy until he joined the NWO. But like his post WCW time and his relationship with Miss Elizabeth, and consequently the lead up to her death, left a sour taste about him, and he's had legal issues too. And I think it was a bitter pill for people to swallow. And I also think he had a lot of heat with Vince over the years, and then they didn't resolve any of that. What I've been led to believe.
I don't think Vince ever got over him showing up on the first episode of Nitro.
I don't think he did either.
And you're definitely right with you talk about the history with Elizabeth and all the questions surrounding her death. I think DDP is the fucking man.
I want to put him up for sainthood, the first ever wrestling saint.
I would sign that petition because he rehabilitates bodies and he rehabilitates souls.
Yep. I mean, look at the work he did with Butterbean, with Jake the Snake, with Scott Hall. Like, he did work with Mike Tyson, if I remember correctly, and then several other athletes. Like,
well, and then plenty of people who aren't athletes who have had physical issues their entire lives, and he's got them walking, helped people lose hundreds and hundreds of pounds. It's really incredible the stuff that he has done. Yeah, damn right, deserves to be a saint. And I just had to say, I'm.
Yeah, honestly, if they're gonna do the Warrior Award ever again, I don't know if they are, but I think he needs to get it. You're here first. DDP for the Warrior Award. DDP yoga. For those of you that don't know, it's something I've actually considered doing myself. As I've gotten older, I'm a lot less flexible and in chronic pain. So, years of working in factories and sitting at desk jobs and whatnot. So, walking everywhere you go when you don't have a car leads to a lot of toll on the body. But yeah, we're not here to advertising for him. This is completely free. DDP, People's Champ, the man.
Yeah. Okay, so to get back on topic.
We do that a lot.
Yeah, just jumping all over the place here. Get back on topic. So I decided I wanted to focus on the United States Championship. So I hate to be that guy to say it, but LA Knight I don't think is going to be a long-term champion. I don't think this is LA Knight's time to be champion. That's not to say that I don't think he's incredibly over. I do. But LA Knight needs somebody. It needs someone to fight against, long term. And I think the man to do that is the man that he should face at WrestleMania this year. I think it could be a long term that we can go back to. And that's Jacob Fatu.
Yeah, I think I could see that match happening. I'm a firm believer that I think Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu are going to have a match. The teasing they've done and the tension. It honestly wouldn't shock me if this ended up a triple threat, or if LA Knight dropped it on a random SmackDown heading into Mania. Fatu versus Solo.
What I would love to see What I would love to see is I'd like to see LA Knight put the title on the line on Friday against Tonga,
Mhm.
right? Then the following week he puts it on the line against Solo. Just barely squeaks by Solo.
Mhm.
Then he faces off against Jacob at Mania.
Mhm.
Loses the belt to Jacob. Solo can't deal with it.
Mhm. He snaps.
He snaps.
I could be down for that, and then that leads to a long-term story between Fatu and Solo, because I think Solo's the biggest problem Solo had is or has is that he's been so intertwined with the bloodline and so intertwined with Cody Rhodes, he hasn't really fleshed out his identity beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't had a good babyface to work off of besides anyone related to that story. Like his match or John Cena, like I guess I'd still include that as being part of the bloodline era stuff. Like
It was. He was, whether he's against the bloodline or a part of the bloodline, he has always, like, his entire run, he's been intrinsically tied to the bloodline, more so than even like Jacob Fatu.
hmm I think it makes perfect sense to pull the trigger on having him turn on Jacob. You know that what if well a few months ago I pitched having Jacob be the one to say I hate you Solo. Well, if you notice lately, Solo's been saying I love you Jacob, almost in a condescending way. I think that's what it's leading to. I think you're right.
Um, I also kind of mentioned to you, like in private, I do think that we're ultimately going to need to have another confrontation between Roman Reigns and Solo, because Roman beat Solo, and Solo didn't do what he was fucking told to do.
hmm
I
Well,
mean,
Roman has
if I'm the tribal chief and I give you a fucking marching order and you don't follow through on that after you've tried to take out the bloodline, after you try to take over the bloodline, you think I'm not going to come and whoop your ass? Come
yeah,
on.
that's a loose end that I think needs to be resolved. That's all. So part of my issue with how Roman's been being booked is he's just not there. I don't know what he's doing. I don't really care. I mean, I care because I want him to be there, but like, it really ruins the credibility, especially since they said he was going to be there on the January 27th Raw, and then he never was there.
Yeah. All they
Like,
did was, I mean, he was there. He was on the cover of 2K, right?
yeah, I guess, but like, that doesn't count. Like, and I'm just worried that they've got themselves into a Brock Lesnar situation again, minus the Vince scandal.
I mean, with John Cena, I expect John Cena to win against Cody, and I hope that John Cena looks right down the camera and goes, "All right, I'm leaving
See you at
because
SummerSlam.
I don't have to be here, so I'll see you in 2 months."
Yep. See you at SummerSlam. See you at like whatever the lead up into it is. Um, he's being advertised for a bunch of international dates, so it wouldn't shock me if he's there. Um, yeah. I guess for my next one, so the women's IAC title. I think there's one major way you can course correct this without damaging Lyra. She needs to go on a massive open challenge style circuit thing. I want her to take the women's IC title, and I want her to defend it on Raw, SmackDown, NXT, TNA, NWA, as many places as she can get to build the credibility back up in that title. I think that's the only way you're going to solve this, and it gets her some exposure to different wrestling styles because she's good, but she could be better. She could be tighter on how she lands a lot of her moves. Um, for the build of this, I want her to feud with every single woman she can, whether it's Shayna Baszler, um, she's a babyface. Have her feud with Roxanne. They had a good feud in NXT. Have her feud with Bayley, with Charlotte, if Charlotte ever comes down from the world title scene, have her feud with all these fantastic women talent. You have Piper Niven, Tiffy. Have her have a match with Trish Stratus in Canada for the IC title, leading to Mania, where we hear that music from Becky Lynch. The man has come back, but it's not just the man that everybody loves. It's heel, like what she should have been when it first happened, like rabid Stone Cold style, the man heel. And then you have her finally beat Lyra, have her put her credibility behind the title, and then go from there.
And that leaves only one title. The Women's United States Championship. Evan, I'm so glad that you left me the Women's United States Championship.
Well, I know how huge of a fan of Chelsea Green you are.
So the easy money here is Chelsea Green versus Piper Niven. That's easy money.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck that. I don't want to do the easy way. I want to do the fun way. So I want to have an invasion. I want to have a little invasion over on SmackDown. I want to have some Raw wrestlers show up on SmackDown and attack Chelsea Green. America Alpha. Master Gable gave a directive that every member of the group needed to have championship gold when he came back. Now, what title would be better than the Women's United States Championship? You see where I'm going with this?
I mean, yeah. Yeah, it would be hopefully way better than the match she had with Lyra Valkyrie. I could be down for that. It's heel, though.
It is and it isn't, because Chelsea Green can walk that line.
Yeah.
I think it'd be very easy for Chelsea Green to walk the line as babyface in that match, and then you can have Piper Niven cost her the match, do the heel turn at Mania. American Alpha walks away with the Women's United States Championship, and you're all set for a Piper Niven versus Chelsea Green feud.
Yeah, I can be down for that. Yeah, no, I could be down for that. I mean, honestly, at this point, I think WWE and AEW need to hire us, and we can, we can be the ones to spot their issues.
And just like that, in 24 minutes, you and I fixed the entire mid-card division of WWE. High five.
Boom. All right, guys. Well, I think that's going to do it for us this week. Let us know what your thoughts are on the whole fallout from Cena turning heel, AEW Revolution. We want to hear what you have to say about this. Whether it's you enjoyed it, whether you hated it, we don't care what your feedback is. We want to hear from you and what you think about the shows, what you think about what we had to say about the WWE Mid-card. What would you do to fix the WWE Mid-card? Because
seriously, what mid-card matches do you want to see coming up at WrestleMania? Are you hyped about Evan's idea for a huge ladder match? Do you like my idea to see Jacob Fatu go one-on-one with LA Knight? Let us know.
Yeah. So yeah, make sure to let us know in the comments. Make sure to subscribe here on our YouTube channel. Sorry, guys, my son's up. 1 second. I'll be right there, buddy. All right, guys. Well, that will do it for us this week. Make sure you go to enforce2.com, enter the code SOG25 to get your 25% off. It'll make you HAR.
HARD.
See you guys next
That was
week.
that was the hardest I could say it. HARD.
All right.
We'll see you next week, guys.
See you next week.